Hey, welcome to Beer Buddies. I'm Shez, this is Phil, and today we've got a really special episode for you.
That's right, today we'll be going over the basics of beer.
Alright, Phil, I see you've got a shit ton of different beers in front of me. What the hell am I looking at?
You're looking at 5 different types of beer: Grolsch Lager, Cobblestone Stout, Tankhouse Ale, Flying Monkey IPA, and Weihenstephaner Weissbier.
So you're telling me that there's only 2 types of beer overall. Lagers and ales, and within ales there are all these different types?
Yes, that is exactly correct. Ales are always top brewed, so they put in the yeast last, and lagers are always bottom brewed, so you put in the yeast first. Yeah, the lager will be put in, the yeast will be put in first. This lets it ferment longer. They usually ferment them longer and at a colder temperature, so you get a lot more carbonation than your other types of beers that you'll see.
So, layman's terms, lagers are often called bottom brews. The yeast is put in first into the casket, barrel, whatever, and is brewed at a colder temperature than the average temperature of an ale. And
yeah, it's just a generalization. Usually, like, that's what you assume when you hear lager.
Yeah. And then for the ales called top brews, the yeast is put in at the top of the entire thing,
after all the other ingredients
in the casket, and they're brewed at. There is no real temperature.
It's all a giant gray zone.
Yeah,
There's no
here's
like,
grain.
It's just the assumption. Like, why would you make a lager that brews at the same temperature as a hops and with the same ingredients as a hop? You're just like, if you put the label of lager on it, you're just deceiving all of your consumers.
Yeah.
Say, so why didn't you just label it hops?
Like, what you've got is a bottom brewed ale.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the different types of ales we've got right here. First one on my side here is a Cobblestone Stout by Mill Street. Now, the first thing I notice here is the color. It is much darker than the other ales. Stouts tend to be darker. Why is that, Phil?
Yes, the 4 categories for telling what beer it is color, aroma, taste, and aftertaste. I know I'd like to quickly apologize. In our previous videos, we were talking about the head.
Not important.
Yeah, it's not important. That mainly talks about, that mainly has to do with the way you pour it and the way it's bottled. It's not as important. Anyway, so the color, in general, stouts have been cooked longer, which means that they're going to get a darker color because the malt has been sort of burned. It's a really dark color for the beer, which is compared to your other ales. You have your regular ale and you have your IPA. So you've got your bronzy compared to the black of the stout.
So Phil was telling me a little bit earlier about the story behind why it's much darker. Mm-hmm. Now, if I recall correctly, stouts are popular in Irish because the English would just sell their burnt beer to the Irish.
They consider they'd be brewing beers, they'd be brewing ales, and then whenever they overcooked it, they'd say, "This is ruined beer. We're just going to sell this. It's going to be super cheap. It's like $1 a pint. Selling this super cheap. People will buy it." Then the Irish, because at the time they were really poor, they're saying, "Oh yeah, we'll just drink the burnt beer." And after a while, they're like, "This is actually
Could you imagine $1 a pint right now for a stout?
Oh god.
Outrageous.
I would love it. Anyway, but yeah, they're like, "Oh yeah, this is really good. Like, let's just drink this more often. Like, this is an actual drink. This is not ruined." So that became a thing.
It's a different type of beer entirely.
Yeah.
Well, ale, different type of ale entirely.
Yeah, a different type of ale entirely. It's just cooked longer.
Yeah, so the basics for a stout is same type of beer as an ale. Ales tend to have 4 ingredients, 5 or 6 if they're flavored or they're wheat, or they're wheat
4,
ales,
5,
Weiss
or
ales.
more.
Yeah. Quickly the ingredients: hops, barley / malt, malted barley, yeast, and just water. Basic beer ingredients. You cook them for longer than these ales, and you get a darker color, and that's where you get your stout from. In general, lots of different kinds of ales, lots of different kinds of stouts.
Now, anyway, so going back, we have these 4 types. We've covered the stout. It's darker in color. So these 2, the Tankhouse Ale and the IPA, have this bronzy color compared to the Weiss, which is a wheat beer, and it has more of a yellow look to it. This is a generalization for the beers, but the Weiss will usually have a quite yellowy look to it, while the ales have a more bronzy look to it, and the stout will have that dark look to it. And the lager in a different category will usually be yellow to this bronzy color.
Golden bronze around there.
Yeah, around
clear
there.
Usually.
Now this is just still a gray area for the beers, but this is the general assumptions that you can make. The bronzy means ale, the dark, like the yellowy means lager. So the second step. So now once you've looked at the color, you can sort of make a little bit of an assumption of what you're drinking.
Check.
Yeah, so now it goes to the aroma. So when you smell all these different beers, you're going to get a different type of smell for all of them. So for Weiss, you're going to have a very distinctive smell. For the largest thing here is you're smelling for the hoppy beer, this one right here. It will have a stronger smell because it is an IPA.
To be specific, it's the Flying Monkey Brewery's Optical Illusions Almost Pale Ale, which is just their IPA, their India Pale Ale. They like to give it fancy names for some reason, those damn.
It's actually one of the most bitter IPAs that I've had in a long time. It's one of my favorites just because I love IPAs and it's just so strong. It's better than the better.
Most IPAs will be bitter though. The bitter flavor comes from
the hops.
Anyway, that's also where the strong smell comes from.
That has to come with the taste. So let's finish off aroma here. Ales will not usually have a strong taste at all. So they will have a smell to them. Sorry, smelling
strong smell at all
because they do have hops in them. Same with the stout, but it will not usually have a strong smell. And the smallest smell, the least smelling beer would usually be your lager.
So moving from the smell, we've got the color check, we've got the smell check. Next is taste.
And aftertaste.
And aftertaste. Taste and aftertaste are two different categories.
For the Weiss and for the IPA, you will mainly be looking for the taste, while compared to the ale, you will be looking for the flavor and the aftertaste. Yeah. So the...
Jinx, you owe me a beer.
Yes. Here, have that one over there. Yeah. So for the ales, it'll mainly be in the aftertaste because it'll have more of a grimy, weedy flavor to it compared to the IPA and for the Weiss because they'll have it in the actual taste. The ale, the regular ale will just have it neutral and then it will go to that really grimy taste because of the malted barley. That has to do with the ratio of the malted barley to the hops and to the water and yeast.
So these two beers have the weedy taste in the beginning taste, in the real taste?
Not weedy. Weedy is just malted barley. That rests in the aftertaste. The bitterness, you can taste the bitterness immediately in the hops. Why don't you give that a try? And the Weiss beer will it'll be very neutral taste, but very strong immediately.
We actually haven't talked about lagers at all.
No. Well,
let's cut to lagers real quick.
There's not much to say about them.
They're kind of the average go-to beer. Like lagers will include, Grolsch right here from Canadian, I believe Budweiser, Blue.
I'd just like to say something very quickly about beers in general. There's a commercial about it. It's usually a lager, so Canadian, Budweiser, Stella. I'm not actually sure about Stella. I need to look that one up.
Sells a lot.
Anyway,
for sure.
So it's usually a lager, and it's usually bad if it's in a commercial. So stay away from that.
Hipster junk right here.
I'm just saying because that means that they
it's being advertised. I don't want to taste it.
That has to do with them saying that their beer needs to be cold and it needs to be served from the bottle. Like you always see people drinking the bottle, you always see people drinking it cold when the mountain is blue. So that's not actually a standard for beer. Usually beer will warm very well and it doesn't need very many...
Good beer will warm very well.
Yeah, and it doesn't need any additives like lemon or lime. Yeah. And you can drink it out of a glass.
So if you ever see a beer being garnished with lemon or lime, it's probably a bad beer. Or, just like a standard lager.
Well, I mean, some say it's better garnished, but I mean, usually the beer will be alright if you can just drink it normally out of a glass at room temperature. That's how you tell if you have a good beer or not. Drink it at room temperature, out of a glass, and if you cringe, then it is a bad beer. If you enjoy it, it is a good beer.
Yeah, so back to lagers. Most beers advertised will be lagers. You've got your Canadian, your Blue, your Bud, your Corona.
It will be more carbonated. This yellowy color to it, and it will actually have a little bit less flavor to it, I always find. That's just a personal
Most lagers are pretty neutral, not much flavor there. I can tell you the flavors of these ones pretty off the top of my head. Cobblestone's got a burnt, maybe coffee or chocolate taste. Tank House and the IPA from Optical Illusion. Fruity, bitter, hoppy.
More bitter than that one.
Well, obviously. The IPA
Grimy.
Grimy is not a taste.
Weedy,
there you go. More of a wheat flavor. If you know what wheat and, like real bread tastes like, you know what a beer will have in an aftertaste. The IPA, very hoppy, very bitter. The
Weiss? It's Weiss Stefano, my favorite beer. It actually tastes a little bit sweeter, I always find. Weiss is sweeter because of the wheat, but it's hard to put your finger on.
Oh, definitely a wheat over taste. It's the all-encompassing taste with a little bit of sweeter fruitiness in there. Whereas the lager, the Grolsch Premium Lager...
Better than most of the lagers.
Better than most lagers, but it's still a lager. This is very neutral, not much taste to it at all. It tastes like beer. If you go to a frat party and you ask what beer tastes like,
it's usually
if it's from a keg.
Unless it's St. Patty's Day. We actually got Murphy's.
Oh yeah,
St. Patty's Day. It was a great keg.
Well, this is a frat house, so they know how to do St. Patrick's Day right. We're coming to you live, from a frat house. We were drinking beer.
We were pretty tank housed on St. Patty's Day. Brought to you by Tank House Ale from Mill Street.
Dude, think bigger, think longer.
We were brought to you
larger.
God,
right. So that's your beer basics. If you're ever in the LCBO beer store, where whatever the hell your country sells beer in, America and your convenience stores.
Maybe grocery stores.
Oh my god, I can't wait. Lagers, ales, different types, kind of bland. Go for ales. You're off to a better start there. I really have to pee.
This has been Beer Buddies with Shez and Phil.
This has been Beer Buddies with Shez and Phil. Good night.